You've been told to let it go, move on, forgive, and you'll be free. Stop dwelling on the past. Think positive. Everyone has hard childhoods. You just need to choose to be happy. And you've tried. You've tried so many times, and every time you can't seem to do it, you conclude, something is wrong with me. I should be over this by now. Why can't I just let it go? Here's the answer nobody gives you. The advice is wrong, not wrong in general. Wrong for this. The advice to let it go was written for adult injuries, a bad breakup, a lost job, a disappointment. Events that happened after you were already formed. Childhood wounds are not events. They are formations. They didn't happen to a person. They happened while the person was being built, and you cannot let go of something that is part of the structure. In this video, why the most common healing advice fails specifically for childhood wounds, the 5 reasons it can't work, and what the research says actually does. You're not failing to heal. You're following instructions that were written for a different injury. Let's name them. The 5 pieces of advice that every child of a difficult childhood has received at least once. Just let it go. As if the wound is an object in your hand that you're choosing to hold. Move on. As if healing has a direction and you're standing still by choice. Forgive and you'll be free. As if the forgiveness is the lock and you're choosing to stay in the cell. Think positive. As if the thought can override 20 years of nervous system programming. Stop dwelling. As if repetitive thoughts about the past are a hobby you selected. And here's the cruelest part. This advice sounds right. It sounds wise. It sounds like the kind of thing a healed person would say. And the person giving it usually means well. They're not trying to dismiss you. They genuinely believe that the path from pain to freedom runs through a decision. Choose to let go. Choose to move on. Choose happiness. But choice requires options. And the person carrying childhood wounds doesn't have the option to just let it go. Not because they're weak, because the wound isn't that kind of wound. 5 reasons, not opinions. Reasons rooted in how childhood wounds actually work. Reason 1. The wound is pre-verbal. Many childhood wounds were installed before the child had language. Before age 3 or 4, experiences are stored as sensations, not narratives. You can't think your way out of something that was never stored as a thought. The advice to reframe your thinking assumes the wound lives in the thinking brain. It doesn't. It lives in the body, and the body doesn't speak English. Reason 2. The wound is relational, not event-based. A bad breakup is an event. You can process the event, grieve, and move forward. A childhood wound is not an event. It's a pattern of relating. It's not one thing that happened. It's the way things always happen, the conditional love, the unpredictable anger, the emotional absence. You can't let go of a pattern the way you let go of an event because the pattern isn't a memory, it's a template. And the template is still running in every relationship you enter. Think of it this way. You can let go of a photograph. You cannot let go of the language you were raised speaking. Childhood wounds are not photographs, they're languages. They're the way you learn to attach, to trust, to read love, to define safety. You don't release a language, you learn a new one alongside it. And learning a new language takes immersion, not willpower. Reason 3. The wound is stored in the body. The shoulders that brace, the jaw that clenches, the stomach that knots, the shallow breathing. These are not metaphors. They are the wound's address. And no amount of cognitive reframing can reach an address that's stored in muscle tissue. The advice to think positive is sending the mail to the wrong building. The thinking brain says, I'm safe now. the body says, "I don't believe you." And the body will win that argument every time because the body's evidence is older, deeper, and more rehearsed than anything the thinking brain can produce. The body has 20 years of data. The positive thought has 20 seconds. The mismatch is not a failure of attitude. It's a failure of addressing. Reason 4. You're not holding on. The wound is holding you. Let it go assumes a grip. It assumes you're choosing to clutch this pain, and all you need to do is open your hand. But childhood wounds don't work that way. You're not holding the wound. The wound is woven into the way you see yourself, relate to others, and move through the world. You can't let go of something that is part of how you were built. You have to rebuild. And rebuilding is a fundamentally different process from releasing. Reason 5. The advice was written for a different injury. When someone says move on to a person processing a difficult divorce, that advice might work. The person has a fully formed identity, adult coping skills, and a baseline of safety to return to. Childhood wounds don't have a baseline to return to. The wound is the baseline. There is no pre-wound state to move on to. The person isn't stuck. They're standing on the only ground they've ever known, and the advice to move on assumes a somewhere else that, for this person, was never built. And this is the deepest cruelty of well-meaning advice. It makes the person feel like the problem is their effort. If I just tried harder to let go, if I just chose happiness more decisively, if I just forgave more completely. The failure to heal becomes a moral failing, and the person who was already carrying the weight of childhood now carries an additional weight, the belief that they are failing at healing because they're not following the instructions correctly. They are following the instructions. The instructions are wrong. If the common advice fails, what does the evidence say actually helps? First, the wound needs to be felt, not released. Letting go usually means suppression wearing a spiritual costume. What actually heals is the opposite. Feeling the wound. Sitting with the grief, the anger, the sadness that was never safe to feel in the original environment, not to wallow, to complete the emotional cycle that was interrupted in childhood. The feeling that was never finished is still running, and the only way to finish it is to feel it through. This is terrifying for people who grew up in environments where feeling was dangerous. The system learned, if you feel, you're vulnerable. If you're vulnerable, you get hurt. So the feeling gets pushed down, pushed aside, renamed as dwelling, but the feeling doesn't dissolve when you push it down. It waits, and it expresses itself through the body, through the patterns, through the relationships, through everything except direct feeling, because direct feeling was never safe. Making it safe is the first act of healing, not making it go away, making it safe to have. Second, the wound needs a witness. Childhood wounds happened in isolation. The child was alone with the experience. Nobody saw it. Nobody validated it. Nobody said that shouldn't have happened. Healing requires someone to witness the wound without minimizing it. A therapist, a trusted person, a safe relationship where the wound can be seen and acknowledged. The witness doesn't fix the wound. The witness breaks the isolation that made the wound permanent. Third, the body needs to complete what it started. The body stored responses that were never finished, the fight that couldn't be fought, the run that couldn't happen, the scream that was swallowed. Somatic work, somatic experiencing, EMDR, body-based therapies helps the body complete these interrupted sequences. The jaw that held the words can release them. The shoulders that braced can stand down. The body heals by finishing, not by forgetting. Fourth, the relationship template needs updating. The wound was installed through relationship. The conditional love the emotional absence, the unpredictable anger, all relational, and relational wounds heal through relational experience. Safe, consistent relationships where the old template is contradicted by new data, not one conversation. Repeated experiences of being treated differently than the original pattern predicted. The template updates on experience, not on insight. This is why insight alone doesn't heal childhood wounds. You can understand perfectly why you fawn, why you people please, why you push people away. The understanding is accurate, and the pattern continues. Because the template doesn't run on understanding, it runs on data. And data comes from experience. Each time someone treats you safely, and the template's prediction, they'll leave, they'll judge, they'll hurt you, is proven wrong, the template updates, not through realization, through repetition. The healing is experiential, not intellectual. And this is why it takes time. Fifth, the timeline needs honoring. Childhood wounds heal on developmental time, not calendar time. The wound that took years to install does not resolve in a weekend workshop or a single self-help book. It heals in layers over months and years, with setbacks that are not failures, but recalibrations. And the pressure to be over it by now is itself a form of the original dismissal. Your feelings are taking too long. They're not. They're taking exactly as long as they need. And the irony, the pressure to heal faster often comes from the same emotional environment that created the wound. Hurry up, get over it. You should be past this by now. The child who was rushed through their feelings is now the adult being rushed through their healing. The dismissal is different in form, but identical in function. Your experience is inconvenient, and we'd like you to finish it more quickly. The advice was wrong. Not because the people giving it were cruel, because the advice was written for a different injury, and you have been measuring your healing against instructions that don't apply to your wound. You are not failing to let go. You are carrying something that doesn't release through willpower. It releases through feeling, witnessing, completing, relating, and time. Through the slow, patient, non-linear process of rebuilding a foundation that was never properly laid. If you're tracking that process and want to see the progress your mind keeps dismissing, our Inner Lens Healing Tracker, exclusive for members, includes sections for body check-ins, emotional cycle tracking, and the daily evidence that healing is happening, even when it doesn't feel like it. Join using the Join button below. At Inner Lens, we replace the advice that doesn't work with the understanding that does. If this video gave you permission to stop trying to just let it go, the next one goes deeper into one specific family role that carries the heaviest version of this burden: the family scapegoat. It's right here.